Welcome to The Art of Existence, the show where we explore what it really takes to thrive in the world of real estate beyond just the numbers. I'm your host, Alexander Wolf, and today we're getting into the mindset and the systems behind luxury real estate success with Donna Gray. We'll go into how she's built a brand that has lasted over 30 years, what kind of systems she leans on for help, and how her approach might change the way you think about referrals, CRMs, and overall growing your real estate business. Let's get started.
Not very many people spend time in offices anymore. And in any of the real estate offices, they're typically empty 99% of the time.
People treat you like I'm a salesperson and I'm gonna hustle, meet people, contact like constantly. Even if you're like making millions, you're still a salesperson. But then you transfer into making it into a business where there's a marketing department, where there's an analytics, where there's like systems to not just make it here, and it could run with systems, not with people, kind of. Have your customers and clients here in Oakville or in these areas, have they started to bring up safety? Thank you for being on.
My pleasure.
Could we start maybe with what got you into real estate? And
I knew that was going to be the first question.
Well, people want to know why you choose, but I think what I care more about is what actually kept you in, because a lot of people go in and out, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what got you in and why did you stick to it?
Well, my family's a real estate background. My brother's a broker up north and has been in the business, I want to say, let me think here, 45 years, and super successful. So it's always been in my vicinity.
Yeah.
And when I came back, I left the province right after university.
Where'd you go?
I went out west. I was, really into skiing and horses.
How out
So I
west?
thought
Like
I'm going to
Alberta,
try Calgary.
Calgary? Okay.
Thought I was going to go for 6 months. My first job was Motorola, and I had the Xerox training, which back in the 80s was sort of like the Mad Men, if you've watched that show.
No.
Oh, the Mad Men?
Oh, Mad Men. Yeah, Mad Men. Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of life, the salesman, socializing and all that kind of stuff. So in the 80s, the Xerox was a big sales training thing. Yeah, for salespeople, 100% commission. And fresh out of university, that was my first job. And I loved it. When I got into that sales training scenario, I thrived and moved out west with that job. And thought, I'll just go for 6 months and ski and have fun, but I fell in love with the province. And I was in my 20s at that point. And that's a great place to be when you're young for sure, the mountains and stuff. Yeah. So I stayed out there for a long time, like 10 years. Got to Vancouver and worked for Jimmy Pattison, one of his companies, selling billboards. So it's been sales forever.
Right.
My husband worked for PepsiCo, moved us to Chicago in 2000. And we just had our third child. So in Chicago, I couldn't legally work. I'm getting through why I got into real estate.
No, I follow. Don't worry.
I'm journeying
I follow.
through the path. And so for the first time in my life, I couldn't work for 3 years living in the States. And we got moved back to Canada. And I got here and was like, okay, what am I going to do now? I know it's sales. It's all I've ever done. What kind of sales? And so I was teaching fitness. I've always been into fitness. I was doing that while I landed here, finding my way. And then I thought, you know what? Real estate has been a thing. So I got my license and it just took off for me. I worked out of a Remax office and I did other people's open houses. That's how I started, and every weekend. And I started meeting people and it took off for me.
Yeah, right from the get-go, like from your personality, how I feel, obviously, you would succeed in any kind of sales, and especially, I think, depending on what year you got into it, even now, I think people get into real estate and they don't have huge skills that transfer of hit and go type of sales. You have to hunt for what you need, depending on what team you join. But I see it.
It's a business that you have to have good people skills, and not just people skills, but awareness. There's a lot of psychology in real estate. And if you have good social skills and you can just get a conversation going easily, you're winning. And that's a lot of it. Just being able to relate to people and it's not always about real estate. It's just being able to converse with people and know have experience, know what you're talking about, be ready for things like, hey, when they come into an open house, I saw this other property, and it's like, if I knew that property, so I was going to see other houses all the time, and I was able to say, oh, I saw that one too, and we started to be able to talk. So you have to have the ammunition behind you. So I was good at, I constantly was aware of what was out there all the time. Every day I checked what listings were on, what sold. So I had that ability when people brought things up, I could back it up with, oh, I know what you're talking about.
You're talking about having value.
Yeah. And they start to build trust.
To the client. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I think when I started in my early 20s, I don't know how I got roped into in life insurance sales. And what I didn't.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. I didn't like it because like the whole finance and like personal finance stuff, because I felt that it was more like psychology, like you said. And I didn't like dealing with people's problems. It's like if I'm telling you to do this because that's the most logical and that's what to solve your problem, and you don't do it, like what's wrong with you? Like I didn't like that, so I just got out of it. But yeah, I see it now. Anything that you sell, you're dealing with people, and people have emotions, people have feelings, they're logical, illogical, and you kind of have to navigate that and help that. You do,
right? And you have to read the room. You have to know when to step back. You have to know when to fight for them. You also have to know when to intervene. Some people get in their own way sometimes, and you politely have to say, don't ruin this for yourself. So there's just a lot of, that's the fun part for me, the psychology and knowing I can read people, and so I know how to direct things. I know when to step back, and I know how to empower them better to get through this relationship.
Yeah, I think my next question was going to be, what do you think were those traits? I believe in you're not born with anything, and you can learn any skill if you put your mind to it and you want to develop it. But like, what do you think those traits or skills?
Well, because Todd, who founded Cayman Marshall that I work with now, he said a champion shows up a champion, and it's true. I always called it the it factor. You have those people skills, you either do or you don't. So yes, to a degree, you can learn a lot, but some people are born intellectual, some people are born A-type personalities.
Yeah, if you have the IQ for it and those skills, I'm talking more like, if you always tell yourself you're bad at math, unless you really can't do because you don't have the cognitive ability, but you just have to learn how to do multiplications, do adds. Like there's miniature skills that add up to you being like, well, I'm good at math. And I think, anyway, I wanted to say like success in real estate for this long haul. What do you think were those micro skills that you think you had or you developed over the years that people don't?
I think life experience is a big thing. And I will say I'm not going to underestimate the power of the post-secondary education. And it's not the university experience and you go away for it. You're learning how to live with other people. I'm not going to underestimate that 3, because when I went to university, it was 3-year degree. Oh, yeah. It's now 4. But we had grade 13 as well. But that whole experience you have to, learn how to live on your own, gain those survivor skills, because you're thrown into, I didn't know one soul when I went to Western, and I showed up there. I grew up in Sudbury. I'd never even been to London. Right. And I showed up there and got dropped off, and it's like, okay, now I got to figure this out. I don't underestimate those types of things. So survivor skills, I call them, and those are important. And the people skill is like incredibly important. And so I'd say those 2 things, confidence, but you build all those things up from life experience. So you got to put yourself out there. Yeah. Challenge yourself. And I challenge myself in a fitness level as well, in a lot. And all sports and skiing and horses were a big thing, very physical. Mountain biking, I got into that a little bit competitively. So
you have to when you're out in the mountains.
Yeah. And so I took each of those 3 sports into a competitive level. Right. I was never awesome at any of those sports, but I was competitive at them. And so just throwing yourself into those challenges, I always feel like I need to push. So confidence, I guess you call that confidence?
I think it's drive. I think confidence, you have, unless you're delusional, you have confidence in everything, but that's just being childish. I think you have confidence when you have skill and you've done it before, right? It's not your first time. I don't think I've ever been confident at something that I've done for the first time.
Yeah.
Maybe the third time, fourth time, then I'll feel like, so that's what you're saying, like you go out there and live and you do it once, twice, three times until you're confident.
Yeah. You know, have you ever heard of Dale Carnegie? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's still around, right? Like, that's good. I'm glad you heard about him. I don't know. Like, I feel like that should be a high school course, because those are skills that I took that course when I was like 18, I think. And they teach you how to remember people's names, like little cues on how to be social. Like, that was an amazing source of like getting into a room, plopping yourself down, and what do I do now? Dale Carnegie was a great, simple tool course to figure out how to just start talking to people.
Yeah, I did this when I was starting in life insurance, but like going through all the old like sales courses, and there's so many hidden gems now because of the internet that you can find them. And they're rediscovering. These guys are like 90, maybe some of them aren't even here anymore, but they're so good. I like watching the old stuff and not the new 20-year-old will teach you how to make $10 million.
I know.
Like, what? No.
The ideology is,
Yeah. But it's funny, you were saying that you were from Sudbury and you're going down to London that you've never been. Like, I grew up by Petrolia, Brussels, which is just like that area of...
I've never even heard of it.
No?
No.
Petrolia by Sarnia?
No.
You know where Sarnia is?
I know where Sarnia is.
It's 20 minutes from Petrolia. Yeah. They're just tiny little towns, obviously. I don't expect you to... But like, if you grew up there, you've never heard of North Bay, Sudbury or Timmins.
Never heard of it.
And it's the reverse now. Yeah. You went to study in London. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are in a very, but you're in a niche, right? Yeah. How did you develop that niche? Do you have a specific buying persona, a person that you're trying to target with language and your service?
No, I think a lot has to do with the product. I will say that I want to say, was it 2014? I landed an infill project, and it was in Port Credit, and it was 18 townhouses, and it was 80%, well, almost 100% of the buyers were like the downsize market. So they were moving from a bigger house into more of a lifestyle townhouse where they could walk to places. Well, because I did the project myself, I met so many people from that and developed a lot of relationships and clients through that project that were all in the 50 plus age group. So I found myself in a niche of a great audience, and I'm in that audience as well myself. So I was able to relate to them nicely, and that changed my career. That set me up for people knowing who I am, so I became fairly well known from that project, and that helped me get into that demographic and understand, because there are, a lot of old money in there, so I understand how to work with them. Right. What their patterns were, what their needs were, and how to soft approach them. It's usually about a 2 or 3 year. When they say I'm ready to downsize, if they're starting, it's usually 2 years. It's a 2 to 3 year process, and I learned a lot from that. And that again got my name out there. And then I joined a luxury team at that point as well to leverage a brand, and that put me into that luxury market. It's the next step. So I was already known with that good group, and now I propelled, because I took a brand and I said, I'm going to leverage a brand, because I was on my own at that point, and brand can go a long way. Yeah. And I knew that. So I said, I'm going to ride the coattails of a good brand and get even more business. Right. People love a brand.
So you kind of like, through like work, you found a niche.
Yeah.
And it developed itself. Obviously, you identified it. Yeah. And you're like, oh, these are the people I'm gonna want.
I relate to. Yeah.
Relate, or I can help.
Yeah.
Did you start changing? Because as a service, real estate is pretty simple ABC, right? You post, overview, very high overview. But you can get very granular and start developing actual services when you identify who you're serving. this pain, even just, okay, the things that they need to be done, sure, but the emotional, like, their pain points, that, like you said, there's 2 years when they decide, maybe because they're going through a lot of emotional and decisions. Did you start crafting your service to solve those problems that they had, to make it very specific?
Yeah, like expectations are very high in the upper end. And so I always say that frontline, they love authenticity. Trust comes from just being yourself and being honest and no nonsense. And that's very much my personality. So people recognize that tone. And so I always say that frontline person, which is that agent, you need to have a good brand behind you as well. But that frontline person is critically important. And you put a lot of value to a client when you have the good brand and a good negotiating skills, good people skills, because agents can get in the way of deals happening with, by ego. Because we have to deal with other agents as well. So we have to fight for our clients. They have high expectations on, they almost always are way overpriced in the upper end because they have expectations, and you have to learn to work with that. And then the things you have to offer them. So, what's your fee? Like, what are you offering me? So I always felt like I needed to offer some great quality marketing as well. And, I've always had a magazine as a tool, as the brand I was with, and now with Cayman as well. They have the same publisher. That's how we originally met. And so that's an enormous amount of quality, is when you have that kind of leverage behind you. So offering unique value, the frontline person's always going to be the most important, but back it up with some pretty interesting marketing tools. And Cayman's extremely good at marketing. And so that's like great value added. When you can add those other things, social media is good, but I feel like it's better for the younger generation. The older, more traditional generation is not using it as much, but their kids are telling them about it, so they're aware of it. So you have to have it. And we do. Cayman, the founder, is a lot younger than I am, and they have a lot of younger people, so they do very, very well. I think they're up to 40,000 followers on their social sites.
Right.
So they have all that covered, and so there's incredible value with all that. So yes, you have to have those other sources of marketing that will feel like you're working hard for them.
No, I think what you said, I identified a couple key points of those of that persona, that people that you're serving, is they need to be able to trust you, and they're not going to take a risk. I think they're a little more, let me Google a real estate agent and work with them. Or like, I saw this one video on Instagram, they look kind of cool, work with them. No, to them it's more, can I trust this person? When I meet them, are they authentic? Which means, are they not being deceitful, right? Authenticity means that you're showing your true feelings, your true intentions. So I think trust is that, and you deliver what you say, right?
Professionalism. So, they appreciate professionalism, and professionalism is that person that can demonstrate that. And what a lot of that is authenticity, being real, being no nonsense, not gimmicky. That kind of stuff is professionalism in our industry.
Right.
So, and having results. You have to, when you're there, you have to have results behind you.
Do you do any kind of like analytic tracking on your website?
Absolutely.
Social media. So do you track on your website, where traffic are coming from, transactions, all that kind of stuff?
We have a full-time IT person.
Okay.
And when people know our brand at Cayman, Todd, the founder, and Taro started together, and they started as young guys doing a lead gen business that was catering to the U.S. teams, and it was very successful. Sold that, and then they decided, why don't we start it here ourselves in Muskoka? So they're a technology background. They weren't realtors. They weren't going into this business as agents. So very, very smart, both of them. But Todd also was a good athlete, had those social skills, and he showed up a champion. He shows up everywhere, and he's very, very smart. So he has that technology, is how they started. Technology is super important. That's not me.
Yeah.
I have no idea about that part. So I rely on the experts, and they've been together for 20 years. These two guys running these businesses together. And Cayman's now 12 years old. So full-time IT. Now for the South office here, we've hired a business manager here as well that has a marketing and lead gen IT background herself. So now we have two people, Todd and her name's Bianca, that are powerhouses together on the technology side. So yes, QR codes are a big thing in our business. And when you go through the magazine, every listing has one. They have numerous ways of tracking from our listings and all the marketing that we do and the websites. They have an enormous amount of information. And then we are able to put that in a nice, pretty, easy to understand weekly email to our clients as to how their listings performing, what cities they're coming from, the exposures that they're getting. So yes, the answer is yes. That's a big part of our business.
How does it help you? Because I'm thinking a lot of
It's proof. It's proof. Like
you internally, yes, in like to help you make moves for your business, not for the client.
Oh, well, pricing's a big thing in our business. So if we're seeing in a market like this, wow, we're getting thousands of views on this and we're not resulting in any showings. What's wrong? So data can come to us to say, well, we're getting all this. Why are people not coming through the door? Something's off.
Right.
So is it price? There's usually three things: price, condition, location. That'll determine the success of a listing. And in this kind of market, price is super important. So then we say, or the opposite can happen. Why are there no views coming? What are we missing? Where do we need to be? What do we need to change? So those analytics will help us determine if we're being successful on getting the exposure, because exposure's very important.
People don't know you
It's
exist.
not everything, but it's super important.
I want to ask, you have been in the industry a long time, and something that I think is a lot more difficult than most people expect is keeping relationships. How? Let's mix it up. Like it's like lead nurturing. That's like the basic step, right? You have to nurture somebody that first comes in contact with you to then have the transaction with you, and then that person. Most real estate agents that I deal with and I've met that have successful businesses, most of their leads come from referrals, 100%. So that means they have to keep a good relationship.
Yep.
How do you keep a good relationship past the transaction for not just 2 years, 10 years plus, for like a long time? How do you do that?
Yeah, no, that's important. And just reaching out once in a while. Fortunately, I'll socially be able to see people, but just the odd pickup, how's things going? The phone is a powerful source, and you need to do that. And you'll find reasons. Hey, I just saw somebody sold on your street. Hey, I thought I'd send you that this happened or that happened, and hey, you mentioned this before. I knew you had an interest in this. I happened to see this.
Right.
So you find reasons that are reasons to pick up the phone to say hi, how's it going, or even just send an email, and that's okay too. Some reason for contact. And so fortunately the referral thing is an even better excuse. I got one this week and I sold their house 3 years ago and got a referral. So that was an excuse to thank you, call and say how's things going, and that kind of stuff, right? So it makes sense to me. You deal with buying and selling a house is such a big deal for everybody. It doesn't matter what tax bracket you're at. And if you have a really good experience with a real estate agent, you're going to refer it to your friends and family members. Like that's going to happen. In action, how does that happen? Can you do things to make that happen a little bit more, or do things that can make it happen less? Yeah, you can also be too pushy. So calling, calling people, asking them, do they know anybody that's selling? Do they have that? Can come off pushy sometimes. There's a gentle way to get there, but yes, there's It's a tough question to
Yeah.
to get me back on track again. Ask me the question again.
You've been in the market long enough
Yeah.
where you've made mistakes where you had a relationship like, oh, I knocked it out of the park with this client. Why aren't they referring? And you're like, oh, I kind of messed it up here.
Oh, yeah. You usually know what your mistakes are. Well, here's an example I'll put on somebody else. A couple of months ago, I competed for a listing. This has happened twice this year. And you don't win them all the time. I didn't get the listing. They went with somebody else who had a few more listings right around their house, feeling like, okay, this person's bigger in this area. Mm-hmm. And after a couple months, they didn't but when they called me to say, look, I'm going to work with this person, I understood and I was compassionate and I was, respectful of their decision and said, oh, you'll be in good hands and stuff. So she was surprised by my reaction, that I was okay with it, and that I, wanted to just say, you'll be fine, and, congratulate them and they get through the process. They didn't like who they worked with over the couple of months, so they called me back, and now I have the listing again. That's how your reaction to people's issues or objections, if you come back to them in a negative way that, it leaves a bad impression, you're going to lose them forever. But I didn't give them that. One example was when I did win one, I competed with 4 other agents. One of the agents had such a bad reaction to that client. This is 3 times, because I'm just thinking of another one last week, that I won the listing, and she said, is it often that agents will just get really angry that they didn't get the listing? She said, I'm so disturbed by their response. I would never, even if it didn't work out with her and I would never pick them. Yeah. So they've ruined it for themselves based on the reaction that they gave. And that's happened 3 times this year. And the 2 I won, and they told me about the other agent reacting negatively and just said, I would never, if you and I didn't work out, I would never work with them again. And here's one where I gave them the grace of, it's okay. You're smart. I know you're making good choices. You picked an agent for that reason, and I'm sure you'll be successful. She was impressed with my reaction. So that's telling me a lot of agents are having little temper tantrums when they don't get it, and then they're not coming back to them. And here we are. I've got the listing back because of my reaction I gave her 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm. So what I got from that is basically the end of it. You have to have the mindset that the end of it is not, did I get the deal or not? It's, am I building a reputation of who I am at all times?
Yes.
2, did I get the deal or not? It's not the last time I could make a deal with that person. So why, burn my bridges?
What goes around comes around, and it's a small world.
So yeah, I think it's just in living and embodying and acting like
dignity.
Like this is not my last meal. I think that's what it is. Desperation is like, hi, I can't, that mindset. This is not the last time I'm going to eat, and might not be the last time I see this person. I think that a big issue in all industries is the internet. That a lot of real estate agents can be from anywhere, from downtown Toronto making a deal here in Oakville, and then they move from this. So you don't have local people that are going to be able to see, oh, that's my local realtor. I see it all the time at the grocery store. So people feel a little more like they can be a-holes because they might not even see that person ever again. I think it happens to everything, right? Local reputation is very important because then it gives you a history of what that person's like. Yeah. I think.
So just, take the high road. Take the high road, and the times you don't take the high road is when you burn bridges, and you're probably never going to work with that person again.
And that person's going to tell their friends.
Yep.
Oh, you're going to work with them?
They'll have to tell the negative stories.
No, don't work with them. Yeah.
More than the good stories.
Oh yeah. I want to talk about lead generation. Is something that you used to do that would get you a lot of leads not working anymore now in this new time?
It's the same old. Right. I've never been a fan of lead gen. I've never subscribed to lead gen because lead gen, the mass lead gen out there, you could get something in Pickering, a lead for there or way up. Where I'd like to work where I know the area. So I've never subscribed to it because that is a lot of what those lead gens will do. They'll send
what's
you
lead gen? Because I think I call it anything that you do to generate leads.
Yeah, for me, it's list to last. When you have listings, you have to spin business off those listings. And people will call you from them. Open houses are still a big thing. The opportunity to meet new people is where you spin business off your listings. When you get a listing, you can meet the neighbors.
Right.
It's an excuse to go say hello to them. And if they come to your open house, it's like an interview. Mm-hmm. You're constantly meeting new people through listings and through buyers. And so, hit your wagon on when you sell a good property as well, have marketing pieces and send that to other people in that area. So listings, and every deal you do, you should be able to spin some business off of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Opening up that circle of that transaction a little bit wider.
Yeah.
The neighborhood, their friends, just like keep what you're already doing. Yeah, focusing on the service that you're providing, and at the same time kind of pushing the word out a little bit more. And that way you have some sort of kernel of truth that they can look back at. Oh, they're selling that person, not just like calling up people out of nowhere. It's like there's a reason why I'm around here. Yeah. I'm selling this house.
Yes, purpose.
Look what I'm doing. There's a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And you can show that. So we talked about this referrals. I'm assuming referrals is
a big part of my business.
A big part of your business. And do you actually have like some sort of system of like reminding you when to talk to people? Because I'm sure it can give you a lot if you have a lot of years in the market.
Well, now that I'm with Cayman, that system's getting put in place. No, I didn't have a good system previously.
What was that like for you to maintain those relationships?
It was easy for me before, but it's easier now that I've got some good business people behind me leveraging my database that I've not had before. So I still got here without a good system behind me. Now it's been a year and a half with a good system, so I know there's going to be even better growth now that I have good technology partners behind me. So I see an enormous future now with the people that I'm with now that I haven't had before. I had a good brand before, but not good technology behind that. And today, if you don't have technology today, you're going to lose. You have to have that, all the analytics, understand.
I really like that. I really like that because that's what I see a lot of real estate agents that are very good at the sales part and going and they're maintaining it, and they made it to a certain level, like even getting top 10 and whatnot. But you being in that situation, how do you feel in your business now that you have all the data, all the treating it like a business? I think that's what it is. Yeah. People treat you like I'm a salesperson and I'm gonna hustle, meet people, contact like constantly. Even if you're like making millions, you're still a salesperson. But then you transfer into making it into a business where there's a marketing department, where there's an analytics, where there's like systems to not just make it here, and it could run with systems, not with people. Kind of. How does that feel between now to then?
Like incredibly confident in everything that we do. I just feel like I have so much more resources, and I'm not a technology person. And so the partners that I work with now are in their 30s and 40s. So they're in their prime and they understand technology. I'm past that, and I'm not going to try and pretend to understand that. So I'm good on the front lines. I'm good working with people, but I'm terrible at the business and technology part of it. And now that I'm partnered with 3 other people and I'm part of that, I'm loving it. So now I'm able to contribute, and I give them resources and knowledge that they wouldn't have, based on where they're at in life, and they tend to be more on the business and technology side and not the frontline side. So we have a great demographic difference. We've got great mindset differences, and so as a team, and having them behind me, and I'm watching everything that I can provide my clients, and they're running at, hey, they'll deal with the clients as well. And let me do this I'm working with Donna, and here's what's happening with, behind the scenes on your listing, and they're communicating with the client. That's pretty powerful. So it's demonstrating that, you've got a great combination of this frontline person who can do that really well with the client, but you're also backed up by this powerhouse technology and marketing team, and they're communicating with the client as well. It's fun, and it's like just a great feeling that they're well looked after in all those aspects, because technology is taking over, AI, and I don't understand it, so I'm glad I have people that do.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about it.
And you don't regret it. If somebody's holding, like all these top performers are, I think a lot of people and a lot of us just know we have to do something, it would be good for us, but we don't take that initial step. Maybe the mountain looks a little too high and
for sure,
I'm gonna have to stop, doing my own business. The next month is gonna be a little lower because I took time to do this. That hesitation of taking the step of either joining a team or hiring a service to do this kind of stuff. What could you say to those people to take the bite, like do it?
It takes a village. Today, the industry is super competitive, and you can do one thing well, like be the salesperson that deals with the clients. You can't do both. You can't be running the business, looking after technology, looking after the marketing, and selling and dealing with clients. You don't have time. So it's not. So on the outside, people get into the business. Oh, real estate, it's easy money, it's great money. There's a lot of other people that have to work with you to get there. Yeah. It's not, so on a commission, it's not all coming to me. Mm-hmm. I'm paying support people, marketing people, technology, IT people. So that our piece of the pie, when you hire us, you're hiring a business. It's not, and that's the perception that is a little bit frustrating. Oh, the agents make so much commission. Well, the agents that are doing well and the companies that are doing well, it's a team of people. And they're not licensed people. They're not the ones selling, but they're the ones making everything happen in the background of why we're here, why we have a good reputation, why we have good marketing. The why it all works is because there's other people behind that we have to pay. And we have to pay for all that marketing. So it's not all going to that person. So you have to have those things. When you want to get to the bigger and deal with the upper end, you have to have all that behind you. You can't do it on your own.
Yeah, I think when you do it on your own, there's more risk because more things could break. Mm-hmm. When you have more people, when it's a business with systems that if this happens, there's less risk for you to mess up for a client. Mm-hmm. I really like that because it gives me reassurance because I've been working. I started with like everybody does, like making social media content, and then because I had a business background, finance background, I started looking at there's a lot of problems here. So for the past year, I've been developing a full service partnership system, which implements analytical tracking, lead generation, but not lead generation in the sense of like ads and stuff, a whole package that creates those systems for an actual business, not for teams, right? Yeah. Like you're describing and implementing those to teams that don't have that. Yeah. Because that's what I love. I don't know if you noticed talking about analytics systems. That's what I like. I like figuring out problems.
Well, you love talking systems. To the team we have. Yeah. It's in-house.
So it's nice that I see it, I hear it. Like, okay, there you go. It is something very valuable.
It's all in-house. Our lead gen's all in-house.
Yeah. And it should be. I think it should be. Successful. Once you're to a point, I think in-house is the only way.
It's the only way.
Is the only way.
And then again,
to keep going.
That's people that you have to employ, and that all comes to the full package of why we're good at what we do.
Right.
So.
Do you see, like partnering up? Do you see yourself having more time doing what you're where you're good at?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about the minutia, all the business things, all the little things, and the marketing, the analytics. I don't have interest in doing that. I like seeing the results, and when I see it every week, it's like, oh, perfect, and I know how to tell the story. But I like be able to deliver it and see it go. But to get that information, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't have time. Same with social media. You only have so much time. Yeah. People that are in front of the camera all the time on social media, like how do you have all the time? You can't be dealing with clients that often because you have so much time to put this content out there. And you have to have people to do the content for you.
Of course.
So do one thing well. Comes down to that again.
Yeah, I think we go back to the same thing where as a real estate agent, you're a salesperson. People don't sometimes like that, but you're not a business owner. I think you're a salesperson unless you want to stop selling houses and become the owner of the agency. I see very successful, outsider looking in, right? I see very successful agencies, and the owners are still real estate agents. And to myself, who I'm not a real estate agent.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I know what it is to run. I have team members. I have employees. I know when something breaks and someone quits or something. I don't get to do my job. I get to fix the problem, put out the fires.
Takes you out of dealing with clients. Yeah.
So if you're a company owner or team lead, whatever you want to call yourself, at the top of the hierarchy at this organization that sells houses, and you're still a real estate agent, I don't think you're running the agency very well, because you're still doing a ton of work, which is being a real estate agent.
Yeah.
When do you decide, I'm going to run the business or I'm going to be a realtor? I'm feeling like you decide, I'm going to be the realtor and I'm going to let them run the business.
Oh yeah, like 15 years ago, I went to a course that was how to run a team.
Yeah.
And I knew at that point, so this is where you have to separate yourself and you have a team of people and you run that business. And I knew at that point, that's not me. I don't want to hire people, manage people, coach people. I don't want to do that. I just want to deal with clients. I knew 15 years ago, I didn't want to be that person, that I just want to be the frontline person to deal with clients. And I need the other people behind me to do all the other stuff.
I bet
that's
you
not
that
my
clarity
skill.
sent you like...
Yeah. And so I've always said, that's where I'm going to be. And that's where I'm going to find a way to always be that frontline person and have the power behind me. I don't want to do the power behind stuff. Yeah. And so I've been consistent that way. I've always chosen what brokerage I want to be with by that system. That I'm going to stay being that front person. I'm going to give up all that work. I'm going to pay for it, but I'm going to give up other people doing that for me.
And that's I'm going to pay for it, because I'm sure you're going to pay a lot more fees.
Yes. Yes.
Which obviously, real estate as an industry has a much, much bigger, higher margin of profit. And I think people fall in love with that, like how much big your commission can be, but if you don't pay anything. But if you want to build a business that is successful and keeps going, even if you hurt your back or I don't know, whatever, you're sick, or you want to take a year vacation, you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, you have to have people behind you. So that big commission's getting split amongst, 5 people. So you're hiring business people as well, analytic people, marketing people.
You talked about like your main office is in Muskoka, you said?
Yeah, that's where they started. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you're basically working right now?
No, here. So we opened the brokerage here a year and a half ago for which we call it KM Marshall South, and we operate out of home base is Oakville, but not very many people spend time in offices anymore. Mm-hmm. And in any of the real estate offices, they're typically empty 99% of the time. And so we don't love having an office, because then you have to have people sit there and employ it. Yeah. And the lights are off otherwise. And when you drive down the street and you look in real estate, their lights are usually off and no one's there.
Okay.
So offices aren't really a thing anymore. And we're at clients' houses. We don't need offices. They very rarely come in. I think in my past, call it 10 years, I might have had clients in the office, I don't know, 6 or 7, maybe 8 times. Mm-hmm. It's hardly ever.
So your current bunch of business is basically around this area where you do most of your business? Yeah,
South Oakville, South Mississauga, and some South Burlington.
What are you seeing happening in Oakville? Because I moved to Oakville in 2012, then moved away for like 2 years to North Bay, and then came back.
Oh, wow.
And that, when I came back, that's when I saw all those, passed on that's being developed. Boop, it's there. And all those towers passed on that's in Trafalgar are just popping up like crazy. What's happening to Oakville, and like where's it going?
Well, the density, we're running out of land, so eventually that density is going to happen around the transit nodes anyways, no matter if it's Oakville or Mississauga or wherever there's transit, and the Trafalgar, GO train is a big source of transportation. So there's going to be density around those. It's not just Oakville. It's Burlington's sprouted, Mississauga's sprouted. So Oakville's got to get over the fact that, everywhere is going to grow.
It was what it was. This is it now.
And every city's it's no different in any other city. Yeah. It is the same. Its density's coming. Oakville will always have a geographic boundary. So there'll be a point where it's not going to grow that much more because you've reached its limits on a boundary basis. But vertical is the only other way.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, that's the way it's going, out of our control. But Oakville's a gem. And I see a lot of people from Mississauga moving to Oakville now. It's more consistently clean, and houses are consistent looking, so it's quiet.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be a great place to live.
This is a great question for you. Have your customers and clients here in Oakville or in these areas, have they started to bring up safety?
Everybody has.
Yeah?
Yep.
What's the questions? It's like, it's very weird, weird, because this has just happened in the past couple of years, right? Who would have imagined Canada? What questions do they ask? What do they look for now that they're considering safety, which I don't think
a couple of
a lot of people used to.
Yeah, no, it's a big concern, and you see security cars everywhere now. People, going in together on their street to pay for 24-hour security guards, driving the streets. And Oakville, has a problem. Mississauga, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere, and a lot of clients feel, I have one that she's in a detached home and she's a single mom with 3 kids. She's like, maybe I'd be better in a condo. Maybe I'd be better in, up on a level in a condo away from the street. And so that mindset is certainly something, technology around security. People are getting dogs because they always say, dogs are good security as well. And that example, they got a dog, to help deter. But Facebook groups, neighborhood groups, the awareness is so much higher, and it freaks people out because people are sharing stories all the time, and we didn't have that before. Mm-hmm. So these neighborhood groups and people feeding the information. Somebody was in my backyard. This person was on my Ring camera. It's constant now for these people to see this, which we didn't have before. So these neighborhood watch groups, they're important, but it's in your face all the time. So it's constantly reminding you of the issues out there.
Mm-hmm. Because I was born in Mexico, and I lived there until I was 8 years old, and my family moved to Canada. And in Mexico, that's, any kind of street you go down, all windows have bars, they love to see, this is funny, they all have fences. The cheapest way is breaking glass and putting in cement, so barbed wire type of thing. It's all like that. You have a little more money, you live in a colonia, which is like a closed community with pure walls. It's like a whole neighborhood in walls and a person to let you in and out. Nothing's getting in there that's not supposed to. Do you see? Because I'm thinking if you have the money, you could live in a house like that. That's towards what you go to Mexico. And obviously, there's better communities that's better watched with people with guns, maybe, or not with guns.
I know.
It goes up in scale how much money you have, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shit, Canada's got no choice. Even if the millionaire, the person that's a billionaire, you could walk up to their house and knock their front door. That doesn't happen in places they know that there's going to be crime. So I don't know what to say with that.
It's everywhere is all I can say. It's people in Oakville have a serious problem. But I also see it in pockets in Mississauga too, and in Burlington. Sadly, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how to solve it either.
Downer.
I know.
Why don't we end it with a nice, happy little game that I made for you? So I'm going to give you 2 options. No overthinking it. Just say the one you pick. Ready? Mm-hmm. Open house or private showing?
Open house.
Lakefront estate or city penthouse?
Lakefront estate.
Realtor CRM or Rolodex?
Realtor what?
CRM, like a CRM or a Rolodex?
Or a Rolodex. Rolodex. I'm old-fashioned.
Text follow-up or handwritten note?
Oh, text is just easier.
3-year client or a 15-year referral?
3-year client or 15?
A client that you have for 3 years or a referral person that will keep you for 15 years?
Referral 15 years.
Okay. Next little game, and we'll be done. You're building your perfect luxury buyer persona. I'm going to just say traits that, and you say yes or no. Drives a Range Rover.
No.
Obsessed with school districts.
No.
Buys with emotion more than logic.
Yes.
Prefers in-person meetings over Zoom.
Yes.
Follows their agent on Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, Donna. If you want to say anything else, either to the person trying to find somebody, a realtor, what would you say to them?
Like who you're going to work with. You know, instincts are super important. So there's, I've got a referral a couple of days ago, and right away on the very first phone call, it's talking about, so what kind of deal can I get on the commission? And then on the buy side, what kind of deal can I get on the buy side? And I'm like, let's just back up a little bit and let's find out if we want to work with each other first. And then I promise you, we're going to come to an agreement on something. But spend time, have those instincts. Do you like that person? That's more important than going for the jugular on what kind of deal you're going to get me, because you're going to come off on a bad relationship. Pick the right reasons to work with somebody, and you will get there on a deal that makes both of you happy. But pick the right person.
Right.
Don't pick the deal. Don't pick the rate. Yeah. These 1%ers. Mm-hmm. Find out what can be done, and they're going to give you some sort of thing that will make both of you happy deal wise. But go on your instincts and like the person you're going to work with.
Yeah.
They'll go to bat for you. They have to fight for you. Mm-hmm. So like that person.
Yeah, I think real estate from the outside seems like it's super easy and anybody can do it because everybody wants a house, especially in our market now and everything, so it looks easy. So it says like, well, what kind of skills do you really need to sell a house? Just a license. But I think when you meet the right real estate person, you see the real value that they bring.
They have to deal with the other agent too, and not screw it up for you.
And it's worth it, I think. Yeah. I don't know. That's another discussion. I don't know how much is worth it, but it's worth to have the right person.
It is. Athletes make their sport look easy. Mm-hmm. Good agents, brokerages make their sport look easy because they're good at it. But it takes a lot to get to make that good, and a lot of hard work. Just like athletes, they make their sport look easy because they've spent a lot of time at it.
You said a lot of you refer a lot to athletes. You said you were an athlete. What athlete were you?
I shouldn't call myself an athlete, although
What did you do before?
Oh, I was super into skiing. I've been in horses all my life, competitively, and now just enjoying it. And then I was into cycling. I got into running. I was doing half marathons, you name it. And I'd kind of been a bit of a gym rat all my life. I taught spinning and yoga for a while when I was, in that time I wasn't working. And so just always been attached to it's all outdoor sports, outside. I need to be outside.
You said you lived in Chicago? Or
yeah.
In Chicago? Okay. I was going to say, did you live in the U.S. somewhere warmer? Because I keep thinking, when you're in Canada, it's so tough because that winter hits you. And it's most of the year. And I remember... I'll keep going forever. Yeah, we'll end it there. Thank you so much,
All
Donna.
right, thanks. That was fun.
If you're a real estate pro and are listening, and you're wondering how to build a business and a team that actually scales with systems, not just the hustle, then you might be ready to partner with a full-service real estate marketing agency in Ontario. Head over to our DMs and let's hop on a call. We are New Realtor, and this is the Art of Existence. Thank you.